so we have our first quarter-finalist at Euro 24. Switzerland are through and await the winner of the England-Slovakia game. And I'm sure the players and staff in the England and Slovakia camps are shaking in their boots at the very prospect of it. But Switzerland deservedly coming out on top. We mentioned before that game even kicked off that there probably was going to be an opportunity, Kenny, for the Swiss today to take advantage of an Italian side that really hasn't turned up at this tournament.
Certainly didn't turn up today, Peter. Kind of shocked us to a certain extent how bad they were, the Italians. It's all well and good. Many a times during my career I've turned up for the game of football knowing we were kind of inferior, maybe collectively and individually, to the team we were playing against. But, you know, you've got to be up for the fight. You've got to believe it could be your day. You can find a way somehow. Be dogged, be determined, get around the pitch, show a positive attitude, make tackles, show a certain level of hunger in terms of to how you approach the game. Didn't see much of that from this Italian team today. Drained of confidence and self-belief. They really just gave up.
Yeah, Stephen, this can't just be put down to, let's say, for instance, a team in transition. I mean, they had a very good team up until about 3 years ago. They've had retirements, they've had injuries, they've had people who weren't selected that possibly could have been in the squad, but maybe were deemed a bit old by Spalletti. But it can't be put down to just that. Sure, it can't.
No, honestly, I'm in shock, Peter. Like, genuinely, the best Italian we saw today was the pasta Kenny and I had for lunch. Seriously, they were so bad. They were. I've grown up loving Italian football, loving Italian players. You used to watch it on a Sunday, like the names ring off your top of your head, the Del Pieros, Cannavaros, Maldinis, all these players, and like they're far removed from them. But you always expect the Italian team to be defensively rigid and solid, and put a tackle and be hard to beat, be physically in a game. There were none of that today. Like, the Swiss cantered through that game. They absolutely went through a canter. That man there, Xhaka, he did it in gear 2. He didn't have to break a sweat. He was comfortable the whole game. It's really taken me back at how poor they were. I expected so much more from them. I didn't expect them to be the great team. I didn't expect them to go on and win it, but I expect them to give a good account themselves. And that's so far removed from an Italian team that I've seen.
Yeah, Richie, Donnarumma, probably their best player throughout the tournament, but that in itself is a bad sign, because it means the goalkeeper had to make a lot of saves because he was extremely busy.
Yeah, now in fairness, he was the player of the tournament when they won the Euros last time round, so he has been the best performer in this Italian team for years. He's been the best performer in the group stages for them. Today, he comes out with some credit because of 1 or 2 saves. None of the rest of them do. Like, in footballing terms, they disgraced themselves today. You can be outclassed. Like, I'm repeating some of what the lad said, and you can be down injuries. Like, Bastoni had a fever, DiMarco was out, Calafiori suspended. So your defensive line has to big reshuffle from the manager. Change system again. Wing backs didn't work. Let's go for full backs. Midfield, there's a couple of players who haven't kicked the ball yet. So circumstances went against them. But we mentioned the word personality at half-time. You mentioned the word soulless to describe the performance in the first half. It was more of the same in the second half, which was alarming, because at half-time you have an opportunity to regroup. You take stock, you're off the pitch, you're sitting down, and the picture is made clear to everyone. If this continues, we're going home. We need a response. We need some urgency. A pick-up in tempo. You can't produce quality that you don't have. You can't create momentum that isn't there, but you can come up with fight. You can come up with a bit of effort. It was completely lacking. We'll show footage in a while of examples of it.
That's something you certainly couldn't have accused Italian teams in the past of, not giving their all for the country. All you have to do is think about the likes of Bonucci and Chiellini at the heart of the Italian defence. That rock, that foundation that the success was built upon, but that was completely absent.
They don't belong in that league at all.
No.
They don't belong in the conversation.
It's funny you should mention that. The Italian team which won the previous European Championships 4 years ago, now, you could have picked that team apart. Bonucci mentioned Chiellini centre-half. They were past their best. The 3 in midfield, Verratti played in there with Jorginho and Barella. 2 of those players, very kind of one pace, not the most physically imposing. Hadn't got a world-class centre-forward. Immobile played up there.
He only got 2 goals or something.
Insigne and Canese. You look at that team to start the Euros 4 years ago, that team can't win. Decent team. There's a bit of experience at the back, good goalkeeper, but that Italian team found that they had personality in bucket loads. Refusal to die, lie down, when not at their best, find a way to win, grit and determination. That took them to the final and actually took them to win the trophy. So if anything, you would have been preaching that to these Italian players before the game, but No, showed nothing of it.
No, and I suppose people are saying, you're talking about the Italians, but the Swiss have won, but we will talk about Switzerland, needless to say. But it's the champions bowing out of the competition without any real fight.
I think you spoke about before the game about does being Italian, does that give you something in the tunnel before you go? And it should do to some extent, but what it's going to do with these now, it's going to make it worse because the expectations, it wouldn't have been that high for them in this tournament because I think people knew it was a team in transition, but everybody still sees it as Italy, and we expect something from the Italian sides, every competition, every tournament, and if they don't perform, but if they perform that badly from a Swiss team that, listen, we all picked the Swiss beforehand, we all thought the Swiss were capable of winning this game. You know, we don't always get that right, but going into this, you felt that they had much more than the Italians as a team. It was just so soulless, and it's not what you expect from an Italian side at all. It was really, really poor.
But it is a poor quality squad. Like, so we can talk about the temperament, the personality, the character in a moment, but it's a relatively poor squad compared to previous years. But you know the shots of the players in the tunnel beforehand. Like, there is no Italian player. If you're on the Swiss side of the tunnel and you're looking left or right, wherever the Italians are, there is no player you'd look across and go, if he's on song, we're banging trouble. If he produces his best, we can't deal with them. And there are some teams who will go far in this tournament who have those kind of players. You just think, on their day, we're going to get murdered here. None of the Italians in the group stage have deserved that kind of respect or fear that some players emit when you're standing in the tunnel. So get them out of the tournament. They've stunk the place out.
Well, they're out now, and you can imagine that the postmortem in Italy in particular will be particularly unforgiving after a real lacklustre tournament for the Italians. They've seen their team beat Italy, the champions, by 2-0. But we've got to talk about Switzerland now, Stephen, as I mentioned. And while they deserve every credit for getting the win that they deserved, still far from a flawless performance from them.
No, it wasn't. They were getting to the right areas so many times, and it's that final pass that whether they have that bit of quality to make those chances happen, because they got in behind the Italian defence on so many occasions. It was a touch let them down, it was the wrong pass option, but they did find those eyes the needles into the number 10. It was just what they did after that. So it's whether they can build on that. But I think I've been very impressed with the Swiss from the get-go. When they went into this tournament, like I said, I saw them against Ireland, and I know that's not always a great comparison the way we've been going of late, but they were excellent in the first half. They just dictated the tempo to play. Xhaka was so instrumental, and they looked very dangerous. And I think throughout this tournament, they've showed a really cohesive, just functional side that know how to play, know each other's strengths, and they've got pace in the forward areas that can cause teams problems. Not always with great quality, but they're a dangerous side, and I think they've done extremely well. Yeah, they have done extremely well, Kenny, when you think of it. And 7 goals in their 4 matches so far. It's not a bad return at a major championship.
No, it's not. I wouldn't put them probably as high a pedestal as Stephen did there. All the compliments Stephen paid them, which are probably accurate, whereas when they're in possession of the football, I think their weaknesses are when you take the ball off them and you pin them back and you ask questions of them defensively, then I think they creak. We saw that in the second half, the opening game against Hungary, when Hungary woke up, caused them real problems in that second half. Scotland to a certain extent as well. So I think that will be an area who their next opponents, England,
we haven't decided that yet.
Put my head on the block. Yeah, I think that's an area where opposition teams will have a look at and see potentially where, I wouldn't say weaknesses, but just small areas where they can be exploited. But once they get on the ball and start controlling the tempo, Xhaka gets on the ball, Frula starts making those forward runs. You've got really good options high up the pitch, really good variation, then they're a real threat.
I mean, it's difficult to assess them on today. If you just looked at them today, you think on the one hand, that's a pretty comfortable, assured, even emphatic win over a team with the reputation and the standing in European football of Italy. You think confidence is sky high. But you're trying to factor in the lack of quality or the lack of resistance or the lack of anything that Italy brought to the table. So it's difficult on today alone to try and assess their chances of going far. But in the main, I think confidence-wise, can you imagine being in the dressing room? We just saw pictures of them on the pitch there. It took an injury time goal for Germany to draw level with them. They've just put 2 past Italy in a clean sheet and dominated the last 16 game. Go back to the 3 goals in the opening against Hungary. You think there must be a lot of belief there, and we're jumping ahead wondering who they'll play in the next round. So whoever it is, however they feel in their dressing room, you can imagine the Swiss dressing room is looking forward to looking at that tie, because neither of those teams talk about this more tomorrow. But neither of those teams.
We'll talk about a little bit more about it today.
Yeah.
But let's talk about the goal that really was the killer blow, even though it came very early in the second half. Stephen, beautiful strike by Vargas.
Yeah, brilliant goal by Vargas. But again, we're going to just show. This is so rare in the game. You think about Italy come out, shows that you've got a bit of a backbone, a bit about you. Give the ball away so easy and cheaply, and then Switzerland go down their end, and it's just simple football from them into the wide areas, a little bit of intricate play, but nothing too much. And this part here, when it comes back, he receives the ball here, Vargas, and you see Barella, you can see him. He opens up there, we're going to highlight it later. He comes inside, little simple pass, no track, opens his body up, and then it's a sensational finish. Like you're beating a goalkeeper from Donovan, but we highlight him here. Barella has eyes on him, he can see him. He just gives a simple 1-2, runs into the space. Barella doesn't even think about tracking him, but before they've even seen him, they can't get close, and then he opens up and he's got the quality to do that. Listen, you're beating a goalkeeper of that stature that we know is being sensational. It has to be something special from there, and it is. So nothing away from the finish, but again, Italy, the way they've not tracked the runner, the way they've not closed down the space, they've not even got attempted to get close to him. They're all the wrong things they've really done, but you can't take away from the quality of Vargas. And he looked very dangerous. He looked quick, he looked sharp, he looked full of confidence, and that was a sensational strike.
That footage is incredible.
Yeah.
Like if you put up that level of performance or effort or resistance or whatever as an Italian team, if you put up that level in a training session, the coach would stop it, blow the whistle, stop it. You'd be sent in, you'd be going running, there'd be something said. You're going, this can't continue. This is not good enough for a Tuesday morning training session with nobody watching. Yeah, to do it then, at that level, when they've just had 15 minutes to remind themselves they're going home unless things change, that's
But they don't do it,
phenomenal.
Rich, because they haven't got players in midfield who have those natural defensive instincts. You speak about Barella getting played around 1-2. A natural defender there tracks the run. Cristante, who was on the inside, the covering midfield player, as soon as Barella doesn't track that run, immediately, instinctively, you're drawn across the pitch closer. And when the pass is made, then you're throwing yourself in front of the ball. It's a natural defensive kind of mindset. They just haven't got those players in those central midfield areas. And you're right to criticise it. It isn't good enough. But when it's not there, this is all about balance in the team. You've got to have that balance in the team. Technical, good footballing players, but also players with that defensive mindset, that kind of counterbalance in the team. They haven't got it.
You could see that all through the game, because every time Switzerland to play forward, there was no one screening the pass. They never put the option, which made it a difficult pass. It was so easy to play between the lines for the Swiss players. And they just didn't have that look over the shoulder. Where's the man? Can I protect it? Without even closing the space down, just shift across to cause an angle, and then they go sideways with the pass. They just didn't do that.
Yeah, coming out for the second half, 1-0 down, we all expected some form of reaction from Italy. That early goal ensured that there was no reaction whatsoever, and it continued right throughout the second half, Richie. They were completely passive.
Yeah. Like any player at any level, you can go 2 goals down, and early on in the second half, you could be in a difficult position. But just to remind people that the team in blue are the ones going home if things don't change. Look how little effort there is to win the ball back. Look how much space there is in midfield, passing the ball around, and look at the tempo that Switzerland are playing at. They don't have to really do anything really quick because nobody is up against them. You think, is somebody going to close the ball down? No. Look, left back just jogging 5 yards away. Any midfielder going to come near him? One fella does at walking pace. Look at this. Nothing. Nothing at all. He's standing still. Give it to him. He's standing. Back we go. And you think here, can you win the ball back? No. Any kind of 50-50, they're losing it all. You know it's not your day when Ndoye's trying to just do this. You just think, it's so easy, we can start doing ludicrous overhead kicks from 18 yards out. And here, can you keep it? No. We're going to win it back, and we're going to bully you and put you on your backside, and now you're defending again. He's going to get crucified in the Italian media. All those players will be. They came within 40 seconds of losing to Croatia the other night. In hindsight, I think they wish they would have done, because the criticism they'll get for what they put up today wouldn't have come close to what they got had they lost that game.
I mean, prior to the tournament, there was an acknowledgement within within Italian football that this wasn't the greatest squad they'd ever sent to a major championship, and they were pinning huge hopes on Spalletti to come up with something tactically clever and
a magic trick.
But almost impossible if you don't have the players, Kenny.
No, we know they haven't got the players. We know the deficiencies that they have, but I suppose the very best of managers recognise those deficiencies and somehow put a tactical plan together to accommodate that. and to the extent where you're actually competitive in games. So despite those kind of limitations, spoke about the Italian team 4 years ago, with the limitations they had, still went and won a European trophy. There's been numerous examples of games in the past where teams inferior in certain areas of the pitch find a solution, and usually it's the collective. It comes from the manager, the kind of tactical setup. He's made 5, 6 changes today.
6, yeah.
Maybe he's had 1 or 2 days on the training pitch with the starting 11 today. For me, it's not enough time. It really wasn't. It was kind of it felt like panic to me in terms of the changes which the manager had made. I can understand it because he was probably in that position. He felt I have to do something. I have to kind of put a rocket into this dressing room. I've got to find a spark, something. So I can understand it to an extent, but
Yeah.
He's limited. He's limited in his choices. Like, even if you're looking at Skamake, who hasn't had his club form hasn't come near. His performances for Italy have come nowhere near matching his club form. He brings in Retigui the other night against Croatia. He didn't really do enough to keep the shirt. So you go back to the player you've dropped, and he comes in. The quality isn't there. They don't have someone up front who you think, right, we can put our shirt on him.
I think for the Italians, though, regardless of the quality, you have to try. The lack of effort. I think that's
the bit that I think that's the most galling.
We're sitting here going, I can't believe
it's the most memorable thing about the match.
Can I just ask this question, though, in relation to the lack of effort and maybe a lack of experience compared to previous Italian squads? And I want to mention a number of players who were left out for various reasons. Some injury, but others were just excluded because they moved to the MLS or whatever the case may be. But you had the likes of Insigne, Immobile, Manuel Locatelli, Acerbi and Scalvini, who would have played at centre-half, was also injured prior to the tournament. All experienced players, all missing, and all could have contributed, certainly as far as the effort is concerned.
Well, I think those players would have contributed as a sense of game management, understanding, can they contribute physically? But you think of what the manager's picked. He's left those players there probably, presumably, because they can't get around the pitch the same way they would have before. They can't close down, they can't be teamed, they can't be a protective unit. But the players they had today who should be capable of getting around the pitch didn't. So where is it being lost? Is it the lack of, for the manager getting the opinion across him, the lack of effort from the players? It's just I just can't get my head around the fact that this is telling him there's such a passionate nation about football. The players are so passionate. You see, like, on the side of the pitch in games, they're so animated about how they play. I've played under an Italian manager. Like, he almost ran around every time he got on the ball himself. He was 70 years of age. The energy they possess for the football, the love of football, that's unlike any Italian team I've ever seen.
There was no footage of the Italians any kind of taking on a leadership, angry, encouraging, motivating role at all. There was none of that. It was just this meek acceptance collectively that we're going home.
I can understand that, Rich. I can understand that a little bit. That kind of bleeds, and these players aren't stupid. You know, a lot of these lads are very bright, and they probably understand it. They look around the squad in terms of the preparation, the way the opening games have gone.
I know they're in trouble.
Yeah, we're in trouble here. The balance, things that we're talking about, we can see it. They can certainly see it. They're on the training pitch with each other every day. So that gets you down. That kind of self-belief, lack of confidence, kind of bleeds into the performance. But you still got to fight that. Yeah. That's where kind of personality, character kind of comes into it. You got to kind of block that. You got to fight. You got to rile against that almost. And they didn't, unfortunately. They were just too passive. Yeah, it was sorely missing throughout the game, and I suppose it was epitomised in that first goal during the first half. Kenny Royler's goal. Yeah. They deserved the lead, Switzerland first half. I've enjoyed Freuler in this tournament, I've got to be honest with you. I think prior to the tournament I felt maybe him and Xhaka would predominantly sit behind the ball and you'd be more conservative, and certainly in his approach, but I haven't seen that from Freuler. He's been vacating that central area of the pitch, arriving late into the box, third man runs, classically we called them, and he's been very effective. This is a great run. Of course the Italian midfield have to do better. He's got to be talking here, he's got to be tracked. But he arrives late. His first touch actually isn't the best, but he finds the target. And if you think back to the Ndoi equalising goal against Germany, it was Freuler initially making that darting run into the inside left channel and squaring the ball for Ndoi to score against Germany. So this isn't a once-off. This is like typical of how he's been performing. He's had a funny time at club level. He's ended up in Bologna, finished the season really well in confidence, and really complimenting Xhaka very well in that central area of the pitch. Xhaka's sitting there playing that disciplined role, and him picking and choosing his moments to go and join in with great effect. Yep, he's had a good tournament, that's for sure.